I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now. This is the B-roll. Like, whatever comes out right now within the next 10 seconds is the B-roll, and that's it.
You smell like sausage.
Welcome to Rock and Roll, the podcast.
Legitimately, were you making sausage last night?
I shouldn't smell like sausage.
I like it.
Really? Why do I smell like sausage?
I don't know why you smell like
weird.
sausage.
I smell like
but you do.
sausage.
Speaking of sausage.
It's been so long since I've sat behind the
Right?
table. I had to look at it and be like, okay, is there anything different?
Well,
There's a chair here just for me.
yay, with your booster seat.
With my booster seat.
Plug it in, plug it in.
Holy shit. Welcome to commercials that we're old enough to remember.
Right? Well, I was thinking of another one here the other day. And see, yeah.
And now you don't have it.
And I don't have it. Because I'm old.
You know, at our age, not only is age kicking in, but the inevitable burnout from the sheer amount of we put into our bodies. Are we ready to try this?
Oh, my
Oh,
God.
God, I think so.
Well,
It's going to be hard.
With that said,
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Rock and Roll, the podcast, featuring Dr. Nick Redbone, Tom Nelson, and me,
Brock Johnson.
I think we've got it. We've got it so far. So far, so good. The podcast is brought to you by
Power Plant. Car audio and accessories on Kimberly Road, Twin Falls. Find them on the interwebs at powerplantweb.com. You know,
Crushed
for
it.
not being here for a month of Sundays, that was pretty good.
you know what?
You
And
did a fine job, yeah.
And you guys did that improv in the middle of it, and it still came out right at the end.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the band didn't have to do much anything.
Yeah.
You guys
No.
just found your marks. And
Well,
you
boy.
wrapped it up.
You know what that means? You gotta go.
He's
And,
done.
It's good.
Yeah, you got to
The
leave on
end.
the high note.
That's right.
And that's been Rock
And
and,
that's
Roll, the
been,
podcast.
whoa, hey,
Oh, that's your roll. Sorry.
yeah, come on now. Don't take my, don't eat the microphone, Brock. Brock, microphones are friends, not food.
looks like a sugar wafer.
When you're hungry enough, everything looks like a sugar wafer. Welcome to Rock and Roll, the podcast. Do we even apologize? What episode is this?
Hi, who
I was
knows?
going to just ask that. Is it
Season 2,
41?
episode 1.
Right?
It's 41.
Is it 41?
It is 41.
We
Yep.
did the
That's right.
eating
So
thing on 40.
the eggs and the booze were the last one we did?
Yeah, I think so. I think. Maybe?
Did we do one without video? No.
Man, I
Yeah,
don't
well,
know.
I mean, we did video. We just, I never posted video.
You can hear people yelling right now. You just know they're yelling at their listening.
It's
device.
42.
You guys are idiots. And they're not wrong. Yeah, indeed. Rock and Roll, the podcast. Today, we'll figure out the episode number. I'll have to when I post it. Today, we're talking about, and I don't know that it's a huge list, but the people that are on the list, in my opinion, are fascinating. The geniuses of rock and roll. Now, genius is a word that gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
It's like a go-to. Lots of people have been called geniuses that are anything but. But we have been really lucky in rock and roll to have had some legitimate. They were almost too smart, too great a musician to be in rock and roll. But that's where they camped out. That's where they made their world, or at least that's where a big part of their world was, and then they could expand. Yeah. And I think, and I was just reading about this guy doing a little bit of homework. I think the discussion has to start with Prince. Does it? I mean, is there anybody that's, I've said this before, I'll say it again. If he was born 200 years ago, Prince is Mozart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, yeah, but I think there are others who might outrank him, like maybe
really?
maybe a Frank Zappa.
Okay, well, and Zappa was that kind of composer. But as far as the sheer, not only what came out of his head, as far as Prince goes, not only his writing and his composition, but the fact that he could effortlessly play, the number of instruments he could play. It was like 30-something instruments.
Yeah, I was going to say, was it 20 or
That he
something
could-
like that?
yeah.
And he was excelled at all of them.
That's it. He wasn't just slumming on the instruments. He could pick up any instrument on his stage and be the best player on the stage with that instrument.
Yeah, and do rock or pop
Or funk,
even
or
jazz.
exactly. He
And the dude just excelled at all of it. So he was born with that innate musicianship,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, in his head.
and
it's
then
in his DNA.
And take all of that and combine it with the fact that he was an absolute showman, one of the best ever. And I mean, he's dancing and leading a 10-piece band and swapping instruments and singing all of the songs. And he wrote everything.
His last name is Nelson.
Just like ours.
Is it really? Nelson? What's his real name?
Prince Rogers Nelson.
Yes.
Had no idea.
Now you know.
And now you know.
He even excelled at playing
Ding,
fentanyl.
ding. What?
What? Did you just do that?
No.
No.
He just did a.
I tried
to,
to, but the voice.
Oh, good.
What did you say, though? I missed it, bro.
I shouldn't repeat myself, but I will. I said he even perfected playing fentanyl.
Oh, God.
I laughed.
And we're back.
Even though I didn't
And
want
that's
to.
been
but
rock
I
and
laughed.
rolled.
Yeah, you just gave it a little giggle. I'm like, wow, these people are darker than even I thought.
Pretty sick. It's pretty sick in here. One of the story that I was reading, and this just came out 2 days ago. Somebody with CBS News sat down with one of the sessions singers from Prince's band, and the estimate is right now his vault has 8,000 unreleased songs, not just remixes and remasters, not just random drum tracks or piano treatments, full songs.
Can you imagine?
That's insane.
Now, since we're talking about that, and I don't mean to get completely off topic, but the Prince album that was just released here a couple of months ago, I remember when he first passed away, shortly thereafter, there was this huge debate between the estate, the Paisley Park estate, and then some producer who Prince had been working on that album with, I think in Portland.
Okay.
And the producer said, we're not going to release this. He didn't want this out. It's not done. He doesn't want it released. But the estate was like, well, money.
Yeah, exactly.
So it got, and that's why I've never listened to it. If that's not the actual story, then I should probably.
Did you hear the clip of the single that they put up just here like last week or so?
I haven't heard it.
Hot Summer Days, is it?
Huh.
It's kind of almost disco-y.
Okay.
It's Prince,
Right.
but it wasn't. I tell you what,
Well,
it's not top 40 material.
Does
Not
it
that it has to be, but
Does it not feel done? Does it feel undercooked?
no, it doesn't.
Okay.
It's just different.
Okay.
It's got this disco vibe.
I got you.
I almost feel like maybe that was just him hanging out with a buddy, and especially when the producer says, no, we're not going to put this out.
Yeah.
You know, the producer obviously wasn't there for money.
Right.
The producer was there to hang out with Prince.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
what if it was one of those things where they were just hanging out and doing their thing?
And it wasn't supposed to be an album.
Right, it was never supposed to be anything other than something that lived in his closet.
It was just friends making
Great
tracks.
stuff
Yeah,
has
right.
come from that.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Hindu Love Gods. Perfect example.
The Hindu Love Gods are a great example. Hindu Love Gods, Warren Zevon was hanging out with almost all of REM.
Yep.
He was hanging out with all of REM except Michael Stipe. And they decided they were going to cut some songs. And it's awesome.
In a drunken session.
In a drunken session, and it got released. And
good.
And one of the songs they do, going back to Prince, is Raspberry Beret.
See how you circled all the
See,
way to
look,
around
see
that?
how we brought it around full circle. You know what? That's what happens when we completely slack off and take off, damn near a month from our podcast.
That's a tasty 41.
It's not our fault. It's kind of our fault.
We're busy.
Super busy.
Summer gets crazy.
It
You
does.
bet it does.
But I think it's
You know-
finally starting to slow down.
Yeah,
a little
feels
bit.
like it,
huh?
maybe.
I heard you say the other day, September, you can breathe.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
September, I'll breathe again.
Yeah, and now August is coming up. August tends to be sort of a...
Isn't it weird how June tends to go, and then there's just this weird little false sense of everything's going to be all right in July, and then August once again goes.
Triple header of. That was great.
That was fantastic.
Oh, man.
That was fantastic. Whew.
41, huh?
Yeah.
41, here we are.
Now
Off the rails,
now
as
you
usual.
did mention Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
Zappa, I think, once again, a genius for sure, but also, like Prince, maybe a little crazy.
Oh yeah.
I would say yes.
I think here's the deal. Do you have to be off to be that brilliant?
Yes.
Do they
Yeah,
go
I
hand
think
in hand?
you do.
Okay.
I think it's almost like you look at somebody who suffers from autism, right?
Sure.
There are some areas in life that then maybe they're, I don't want to say off because that's not the right word, but in the areas that they lack, they make up for 10 times over in other areas. Like Rain Man is a perfect example.
Exactly.
And I think that there might be some of that. I mean, I think they have to give up a little bit of sanity to reach that level of artistic goal.
I get that. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with it. I think it depends on how you define being off.
Sure.
But
and that's not the right way to put it, you know?
Certainly unconventional.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and Frank was a great example. He absolutely didn't fit in to any mold. When you see musicologists talk about music and talk about Frank's stuff in particular, then they'll talk about stuff that sounds like it. It's referred to as Zappa-esque. It's his own thing. Only Zappa knew how to do Zappa. He didn't want to do rock and roll. As a kid, once he figured, he said he went to the library and learned how to write down notation. And he was buying the weirdest, noisiest records he could get. The Stravinsky, like the really avant-garde, weird stuff. And he drank it in. He absorbed it. Once he figured out how to put the staffs and the dots on paper, he was off and running because he could hear it in his head. Before it was even played, he knew how it would sound.
I kind of wonder if his whole music thing really was just a way for him to parlay his views on politics and social norms and stuff like that.
It was his
Almost
expression.
like that was just the vehicle.
I think that was part of
as
it.
opposed to the other way around. Like, I'm a musician, I'm going to do this. It was more like the other way around.
I think that was part of it. He would have moments where he got very opinionated and the music became a vehicle for it. But then at the same time, he would put out things like, because like I said, he didn't want to do rock and roll. He did rock and roll so he could afford to do the stuff he really wanted to do. Write big orchestral pieces and have the London Symphony Orchestra play them, which he did. There's 2 albums worth of the stuff, and he criticized the London Symphony Orchestra up one side and down the other. He said they were sloppy. They were. Oh yeah, he was up.
Okay,
but his music, to their credit and to maybe his credit too, he wrote stuff that was impossible for humans to play. Yeah. I mean, literally, he would have, and I don't want to go too deep on this because it just turns into music babble, but he would change time signatures midway through measures. He would do things that a drummer can't even, it's impossible for you to have enough hands to do. So it would have to be 2 drummers playing it. Or, he'd have pieces where there would have to be 3 piano players on stage. I mean, just insane things. Yeah. It's almost impossible to listen to. As much as I admire him, some of that stuff's just so dense.
It's too weird.
It's too weird.
Yeah.
My brain won't track it. And this is coming from a guy who digs prog rock, but there was just something about Frank stuff.
Zappa's not prog rock. Zappa is Zappa.
Yeah.
There is no genre that fits.
Yeah, exactly it. He did an album. All of his albums have references that all tie together. I read an interview with him once where he said, all of my albums all exist in their own continuum, in their own universe. It's all tied together. So you'll hear, he loves to talk about poodles. You'll hear poodles pop up. He'll talk about a blowjob. Blowjobs tend to get referenced quite a bit. But they're all, and why wouldn't they?
I'm all for it, of course.
Like and subscribe. 2 thumbs way up.
Wow.
From Broc. But I mean, these things that will all kind of tie together into one continuous weird universe. And will even, the guy would take classical pieces, insanely classical pieces, and they would have the dumbest names. He never thought the words mattered. It was all about the notes.
Yeah.
So there's this huge classical piece called Bob in Dacron. There's another one called Mo and Herb's Vacation, Part 1. And Part 2. And he had one of my favorite classical pieces of his of all time is called G-Spot Tornado.
Yeah, I love it.
You know what I mean?
Which would also be a great porn film name.
And it probably has been somewhere. Yeah.
I was in it.
Broc was in it.
Wow. You've been holding out on us, man.
Well, now we know why we had to miss all those episodes of the podcast.
If you've ever wondered on whether or not the Chubby Chaser exists, it does. G-Spot Tornado, available now.
I want to go rinse my brain out with soap.
Rinse it out with
Crescendo
Jepson's
With Jepson.
Oh.
Thank you, no sir.
I wonder if that would cut through the smoke in my throat.
I'm with you. The entire West is on fire.
See,
we're very lucky that way every summer.
I think it's a beautiful thing, though, because you know what that does to your voice?
Well, sure, but it makes yeah, I know exactly what it does to my voice. This crackle garbage.
But
voice.
if you know how to use that to your advantage.
Okay, so you mean
it's like smoking a pack and a half of cigarettes a day again.
So, for instance, I could try to sell Lincolns. That's a big bull. How was that, McConaughey?
Pretty terrible.
God damn it!
Oh, well, I think it's been a while.
Yeah, and I think the McConaughey was a one and done thing. I think he
that kills me.
Oh, okay.
Like I had one McConaughey, and that was it.
Yeah.
Well,
bitch.
Thank God we have Rutherford B. Hayes.
Rutherford B. Hayes. the patron saint of rock and roll.
Was
the
he
podcast.
19th president? 19th.
I don't know. I lost track. It's been a month. Jesus.
What do you want?
What do you want?
I cannot covertly look it up.
Okay, do that.
Well,
Whatever
right.
you do, don't covertly look it up.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, Tommy, another guy that I think qualifies as genius, and you're the one who brought him up when we were talking off set, Brian Wilson.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know if this is because I'm starting to fall down the Brian Wilson rabbit hole for some reason. This all started with, I love the algorithms on YouTube usually, and I was all of a sudden I'm sucked into this this video of the 50th anniversary of the Pet Sounds recording, and there's Brian Wilson with Al Jardine and Al Jardine's son.
Okay.
And they're re-recording some of the stuff, and so I just I'm started doing some research and stuff, and this was before we were going to do this podcast, and it's like this guy is just he's had 3 nervous breakdowns because he was so worried about the Beatles.
Oh, really?
Being better musicians than specifically Paul. And Paul loves Pet
Oh,
Sounds.
yeah.
Thinks God only knows maybe the best song ever written. This is coming from Paul McCartney.
Exactly.
And Brian Wilson was so good at not only composing, but being a master in the studio. And in this video, at 70, whatever he is, he's looking around the studio, like he's willing everyone to do their part.
Right.
It's just like,
yeah.
and not in a crazy way. I mean, crazy Brian's pretty much gone now. He's kind of back to himself. But this guy, he wrote songs that he had to feel himself.
Yeah.
It was just so
And
personal to him.
And another guy where he heard all of the tracks in his head.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was already there. He
Kinda
knew
going
exactly.
back to like the musicians.
Yeah.
He's willing them to looking at him like, hey, this is where you ease into this part here, and,
Brock did a little bit of research. Well,
19th.
covertly.
Yeah, 19th.
He was
Yeah.
Rutherford B. Hayes, our 19th president.
19th.
All right.
He got a
Oh,
double,
we're back though. Oh, God.
He got a double shot in 41. I love that.
Oh, I missed the double Rutherford. I came in late on the double Rutherford.
that's all right.
Just didn't
We're
expect it.
rusty.
I didn't see it coming.
rusty. We're
Didn't see it
We're
coming.
rusty. Rusty.
It's all right.
Seinfeld. Sorry.
That's the dog we keep under the table. Also a vacation reference. Wow, that was fantastic.
That was deep.
Now there are guys. Hear my voice cracked that time. I was a 12-year-old boy for a minute. There are guys that excelled in certain fields, like Hendrix. I think was a genius on the guitar. I think Jaco Pastorius was a genius on the electric bass, but they weren't the all-around, just the overwhelming intellect and ability and creativity that some of these guys were talking about. And these guys might not have been great, instrumentalists. Frank was a great guitar player, but he was a different guitar player. He wasn't a super technician. He just played Frank stuff.
Yeah.
Brian Wilson played bass, but you don't hear people talking about what an extraordinary bass player he was. But goddamn, he could do everything else. Prince was the exception. That's why I think Prince still comes out on top. Look, Mozart was a genius. He was writing stuff at 5. Okay, how many instruments did Mozart play?
One.
Did he play? Yeah. Did he play more than one, or did he just compose on a piano or on a keyboard and then pass it on?
I don't think there were keyboards.
Well,
around.
but what I meant like a
Mozart was-
harpsichord, like any instrument where he has got the notes laid out in front of him.
Mozart wasn't breaking out the Yamaha.
The DX7 with the pitch wheel.
That Moog synth going.
Now Mozart, as heard on a Casio keyboard.
Casio. They also make great watches.
If you would have been wearing a Casio at that very moment, that would have been the
Did you
absolute.
ever have a Casio? I think I did.
yes,
back
I
in the day.
did.
Yeah.
I didn't have a Casio watch. What did a Casio watch do?
Well, nothing. It was a
One
kind
of
of
the
the
first
basic
digital.
digital watches
Yeah,
for.
when they came out.
okay.
Yeah. Did you know? Here, a little side note. Are you ready for some rock and roll the podcast trivia?
Pop up trivia.
I cannot wear
nice.
digital watches. They don't work on me. They will all to every single digital watch I have ever owned at some point resets for no reason to midnight January 1st. Something about my electrical field resets watches, and it's been every digital watch ever.
Magnetic thing or an
Maybe.
iron something?
I don't know, but every without fail, cheap to expensive. Every digital watch I've ever had, I've tried.
It has nothing to do with us working in radio either. We're lucky we don't glow.
We are
in the
radioactive
dark.
at this point.
You have to understand, for nearly 22 years, I've been sitting next to a high-powered transmitter, and at night, my balls glow. Like and subscribe.
Ooh. glow balls from Whammo. There's a $1 million idea right there.
Right there, yeah.
What the hell am I doing here?
Doesn't matter.
I don't either. And so I'm trying to think, are there any other guys that we're missing that were that level of... McCartney almost qualifies too, doesn't he?
Yeah, I would say so.
Well, I mean, you talk about the legends.
I hate the fact that I have to say maybe.
But I feel like there are plenty of those in circulation today, like Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters,
Right.
Daniel Johns of Silverchair, believe it or not. If you listen to some of the crap that guy has pulled out, it's unbelievable.
Okay.
Who else is... I guess Kurt Cobain kind of, but not. I mean, he was deep and
He was
poetic.
a brilliant songwriter,
right?
But not a composer. Not
Right.
Billy Joe Armstrong?
Yeah, Billy Joe Armstrong. Yeah, have you met Billy Joe Armstrong?
Whoa! Did we? Wow, we never get Billy Joe Armstrong references from Brock ever.
That wasn't my reference. I was specifically holding back. But since we're talking about it,
help you out, man.
I appreciate
See
it.
how I just lied? Just lied, looked right into the camera.
Oh.
And lied about your Green Day thing.
Yeah.
I just think that that's why I try to be careful with the word genius, because while I love Dave Grohl, I love Paul McCartney, I love other guys that have been called geniuses. I love Bob Dylan. I think Willie Nelson gets called that, but I think Bob Dylan at his height is so far and away still, as far as just the depth of the musical talent, so far beneath the three that we've talked about. I'm racking my brain trying to think. I mean, I could go to other genres. I think if we were throwing jazz in, Miles Davis obviously, but and maybe even Coltrane.
Yeah,
but we're not. We're only talking rock and roll.
Gene Simmons.
Oh God, Gene Simmons is. He's like
a
garbage with a head.
He's a commercial you can't DVR through.
Oh God, he's
Oy
just the worst. Oh, we can't do that. You can't do that.
you can't triple stamp and double stamp, Lloyd.
Well, and we can't talk about Gene Simmons and then have you go immediately to an oy vey Jujo. Look what you've done.
Well, we can talk about glowing balls.
Well, I'd rather go back to balls than what do you know from rock and roll?
I have no idea what's happening right now.
Okay, Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley are both Jewish.
Yeah.
So, and this has always been, nobody talks about how Jewish Gene Simmons is, but a lot of the unfortunate cliches that go with it. He's very rich. He's very successful. He's one of the best businessmen ever in the business.
Very tight with his mother.
Very tight with his money.
Mother.
Yeah.
And mother. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So there we go. So you just went ahead and cracked that wide open.
Sorry about that.
But just remember, we still like Kiss.
Yeah. And be looking for a chance to win Kiss tickets on Balance Rock soon.
Is it true? You can play Kiss?
Yeah.
If they ever show up.
Yeah.
Don't have them yet.
Oh, the tickets or Kiss? Do you think we can get Kiss to come out to Jerome, Idaho and do it in studio?
Doubtful.
Yeah.
But I could dress up like Kiss with some makeup and you
That
can interview
would be
me.
fantastic.
Ooh, that would be cool, man.
I'm big enough to dress up at least two of the members.
You know what would have made Kiss better? If Ace Frehley was all four of the guys.
Speaking of Billy Joe Armstrong, they covered Rock and Roll All Night at their show in Dallas here a couple of nights ago. It's pretty fantastic.
That was a good cover.
Well, now I
man.
got to go find it.
And Gene Simmons approves.
Because that's a song I've always liked. I didn't like the album version's terrible. It's slow and they repeat the hook. I swear to God, like
The
60.
live version's better.
The live version from Alive 1
Yes.
is the shit.
Yep.
Because they took all of those tracks back into the studio and sweetened them all. So Alive is kind of alive, but it's, but it sounds great. And it's got that kick-ass Ace Frehley guitar solo in there, which isn't on the album version. Completely off the rails. We went down a Kiss hole.
But we still kept it music.
Yeah, I mean, at least
you know?
we're still talking music.
Yeah.
That's pretty tasty.
Look at us go, man.
Man, you know what? It sure has been nice to be back, guys.
It has.
Yeah, this is cool,
And
man.
we've gone like 30. Did you know that we went 30?
Have we already gone 30?
I think we're pretty damn close.
I don't know. I think we...
I don't even need a nap.
No, we're not quite 30 yet.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because when we started, our counter was at about 12, and we're at
okay.
37. So we're about 20,
We're close.
25-ish. Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm going to throw this out there, man.
Do it.
I'm kind of surprised that you probably are ready to, but if you're talking about someone that actually has the musical chops and also the real mental IQ type of thing, Brian May.
Oh, sure. Brian May.
Brian May
Yep.
Yeah.
has a degree in astrophysics.
That's true. He is Dr. Brian May.
Yeah, that is so cool. Makes his own guitar, the
Yep.
Red Special.
Yeah.
There's
He's
a few
smart
like
dude.
that. Rivers Cuomo is he's a doctor of sorts.
That's right. I knew that.
Dexter Holland from The Offspring. That's
Yep.
what he did a couple of years ago.
And isn't one of the guys isn't like the lead guy from Social Distortion or Bad Religion? It's one of them.
well,
He's like
Greg
a professor.
Graffin is
That's who I'm thinking of.
incredible, and he's Bad Religion.
Okay, yeah. And I know he's a professor of something.
He's a professor of everything.
Yeah.
I've got a Lutheran Bible school certificate of a.
Were you confirmed?
And I was confirmed too.
See, that's the big deal.
See,
Oh, man.
If you get confirmed, I'm confirmed.
I'll tell you what. I had a gown and everything.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah,
And
Were you ever an acolyte?
dude.
Okay. Good.
And now it's time for your Lutheran Minute. Your Lutheran Minute brought to you by the Lutheran Fellowship.
And
Come
Menards.
together for about an hour and pretend you're Catholic, kinda, and then go home, go about your lives.
It really is Diet Catholic.
Yeah, so and Methodist,
and then Methodist is Diet Lutheran.
Yeah, yep. That's what I liked about my grandparents were Methodist. So you show up for 45 minutes. If you take off a little early, no one cares.
Yeah,
Whatever,
no big deal.
You
But-
put in your time.
Yeah, you show up. Look, show up. Throw a $5 in the plate. Throw a prayer or two on the way out. Tip your cap, and you're gone.
Yep.
It's all
Yep.
good. It's all good. There's not even a softball league you have to be a part of. It's the bomb. You know what I mean? You got your 45. You're done for the week. You're good. You're golden. So let's see. We've talked about
Was your church-
Judaism. We've talked about Lutherans. We talked about
Was your church
Catholics.
bus garbage too? Because our church bus was absolute garbage, but it was the only way they could get us around.
Or what? Oh, the bus?
Church bus, yeah.
We didn't even have a church.
This
bus.
is bullshit.
I know, right? Nope. Had to borrow other churches' buses. We had no bus.
Wow.
Yep. At least not while I was there. Nope. Of course, we had the church horse and buggy.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
We had
Driven by Rutherford B. Hayes.
He got a triple reference. I love you.
And on that reverential note, this has been Rock and Roll the Podcast. Man,
I love it.
please. That was just what a close right there. Son of a bitch.
This whole thing was awesome.
Yeah, big thanks to our sponsor, Power Plant. Love them.
PowerPlantWeb.com. They're the blaniest.
They are the blaniest. For all your Blaine needs, go get you some. That Power Plant. Kimberly Road, Twin Falls. And a pleasure to be back with you guys. And
Yeah.
we're gonna get
ditto.
we're gonna get this posted up. We might even record another one this week, but I bet we don't.
It could happen. Chances are not great.
It could happen.
Sailing along. It's like, yep.
Yeah, it could happen, but
Doubtful.
Lowered expectations.
Yeah. You're gonna enjoy us more if you expect less. Until the
That's
next
what she
time,
said.
my name is Dr. Nick. That's Brock Johnson. That's Tommy Nelson. Peace, love, and rock and roll. Tip your waitress. We're out of here. Freeze frame.
And that's the first episode of Rock and Roll the Podcast without that goddamn jingle. We made it, guys. We did it. We